victorious top laner.
Thank you very much. I am here with Hauntzer. Hauntzer, congratulations on yet another win. I just want you to know off the bat, if you win one more match, you are guaranteed a first-round bye in the playoffs. Does that mean anything to you?
I guess it's okay. It's nice. Nice to have.
Fair enough. Well, it's interesting because it feels like there's a lot of parity in the league right now. Everyone's beating everyone. You guys almost dropped to Immortals. C9 lost earlier today. There's a lot of back and forth matches. I'm kind of curious, like your thoughts coming forward into playoffs. Right now, you're the #1 seed. Are there any teams you're afraid of?
Not really. The top teams are all like still pretty good, like P1, C9. Yeah. Right now, it's like really hard to tell who's the best because people are taking games off each other and the meta has been shifting quite drastically. So by playoff time, it's just a toss-up on who's gonna be the best. But obviously, we're gonna practice really hard and try best.
Absolutely. So speaking of being the best, I want to ask about you as a player because last time we talked to you, I think you talked about wanting to be the best top laner in North America, and you're here in a league with like Someday and Impact and Looper, like a bunch of world champions or former world champions, and you're clearly making a name for yourself as part of that upper echelon. So the real point of question to you is, what will it take to prove that you are definitively the #1 top laner in NA?
I'm not really sure because I've been playing pretty well, but people still think like others are better than me, like Someday or Impact, but I think I'm the best, and I just have to keep playing more consistently, and just keep playing well while the others are underperforming.
Absolutely, and you've been playing very well, Hauntzer. Thank you for the interview. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you tomorrow as well. Toss it down to the analysts.
Thank you very much, Freak, Hauntzer, and the rest of the squad. Happy to pick up yet another three-game victory here, so moving to 10-0 in those third games, but. And we can get into this in a bit. It does speak to, as Jat was mentioning, throughout the past couple days, the parity in the league and the possibility of any one team taking down another, regardless of where they are in the standings.
I mean, that Immortals beat C9 today. Envy took TSM to 3 games. So I think just any team on any given day has a chance of upsetting.
But TSM will always win in the end.
Well, as long as it's not a 2-0, it's not 2-0.
Yeah, there was one thing that remains true, and that's TSM winning, I guess.
13-2 right now across 15 games, 15 series.
That is correct. So they moved to 13-2. Nice 2-game separation between them and C9 moving into playoffs as of right now. We'll see how that adjusts over the next 3 games left to play in the split. Let's talk about this series though, real quick. Break it down. Bjergsen going big on the Vladimir in the mid lane. Of course, we did see FlyQuest make some adjustments, right? Some things we asked for. We're cool with that Rumble Camille matchup in the top lane, and we saw Balls doing a much better, job of it this time around. But that mid lane is where I want to focus because we don't have the Zed pick, so I'm a little bit more prepared to ask you guys what you thought about how it worked out.
I thought that matchup was pretty even, but maybe gets more Vlad favor as the game progresses because Syndra tends to fall off. However, it just felt like Bjergsen just plays that champion very, very well. Like I'm looking at quality Vlad play, and Bjerg's Vlad this game was probably the best I've seen this split.
Let's take a look at some team fights to look at exactly what you're talking about. 18-30 in the top lane. This is FlyQuest, attempting to stab back into the game.
And this starts so well with okay, well, we get a pick on Altec, and Bjergsen looks like he's dead. He gets ignited. He's in the middle of 3 people, finds a perfect E into the W, gets 2 lifesteal components off his ulti as well as his Q, his power Q, and then he just cleans up this fight.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that situation, you think there's going to be a 2-0, and out of nowhere, it's a 3-1 for TSM. It was a pretty crazy turn to see there.
Right, I know you put it kind of crudely. Bjergsen just does things good.
Yeah, it's not crude. It's not a very intelligent way of putting it.
Does things good while other people do things bad.
Yeah, other people mess up, and then Bjerg does it right.
Take Piglet's Vladimir performance, put it next to Bjergsen's in a split screen.
Good,
very different from each other. Let's take a look at another play. 21 into the game. TSM 4-0 into a Baron here off of more big plays by Bjergsen.
I mean, once again, you think that he's getting caught out. This is actually just an overextension. Vladimir at this point in the game, he was already 6-0, is extremely hard to kill. He turns around easily. He's got his Zanya still as well, able to dodge the ult there coming in from high. So this is what we mean when we say Bjerg does things right. He never seems to use his cooldowns unnecessarily there. As soon as the Syndra ult comes in, he's Zanya'ing, buying enough time for his teammates to collapse, and he gets the big ult heal afterwards.
Every defensive spell use there actually negated something from the other team or bought crucial seconds in the team fight where his teammates could then enclose the opposing squad.
Yeah, you even see right there he gets his empowered Q off right before he's on to make sure he maximizes the damage and healing that he gets. It's just very, very clean play. And that's something that I honestly miss a lot when I see certain champions. I'm just like, well, he didn't execute that, or like his job this team fight was to do this, instead he did this. But Bjergsen always seems to do the right thing.
And again, I think that this is where TSM gets benefit sometimes the most, and particularly from the mid lane, but the others as well, is that they have mastery across so many different champions and veteran status across so many different players now that when the meta changes, we see Bjergsen quick to adjust and still playing at an optimal level. Whereas we've seen other people, again, Piglet as an example, not to necessarily pick on him, but hey, he's picking up the new champion, the relevant champion in Vladimir, but doesn't quite have the mastery of it to back up in the play, and therefore you don't see it become successful.
Right, I think that extends to a couple of their other positions as well, like the interview with Hauntzer. He's been playing Camille probably the most in the league. We talked about how we thought that, oh, you know, TSM, get him a tank, they play better with tanks, but they actually play great with Camille. They picked it really early on all the time as well, so they're comfortable taking this matchup that generally Camille loses. They give it a little bit of attention almost every game. This time again, Svenskar makes his way up there, help for the first blood. And then, you know, still, Camille loses her turret early on because Balls was still winning that matchup, but it didn't matter because TSM's able to play around those kind of weaker early game champions.
And as soon as I say you can take advantage of TSM's bot lane, what do? Of course, they double kill the opposing bot lane. And I'm just like, well, I guess this is why TSM always wins game 3s, because they just play better as the series progresses.
Yep, it's something about it, right? And sometimes it's hard to put a pin in exactly what it is, but for whatever reason, they are playing better in game 3s. Player of the game going to Bjergsen this time around. We've already talked about him quite a bit, but an element in which we haven't talked about him quite yet is, you know, MVP vote, right? We're looking at a lot of player of the games and how that's going to affect MVPs coming into the latter half of the split. This guy is no stranger to receiving the award. Do we think he has what it takes to make a case to be the top player in the North American LCS?
I mean, he's got a case. I feel like he always has a case as long as he's not like horribly slumping or TSM's failing like the, you know, like Spring Split last year a little bit where it's hard to give it to him. But I mean, this year I think he also has better competition as well. I think Arrow made a really, really strong case in the second half of the season. He was making a good case in the beginning, but especially now that P1's kind of turning up and potentially even pushing into that number 2 position with Cloud9 starting to lose a couple games here.
I think if you ask anyone who's the #1 player I would build a team around in the entire North American LCS, Bjergsen's always the person you think of
Still
first.
the answer.
Exactly. But in terms of MVP for this season, I don't even think he's the #1 candidate on his team. I think Hauntzer has the edge on in the MVP vote.
I was about to say
like
spicy,
as well as like Arrow, I think has the lead as well. I don't think Bjergsen's played super well this entire season, and he's had games where he's looked off here and there. Sure, today's series he played great, but he had a lot of series where he's just like, oh, he plays Talon, he just goes bot, kills himself.
I like it, man. I'm excited by the idea that the MVP voting will be that close, right? That it won't just be, or hopefully won't just be a landslide victory to one player or another. And again, it speaks to kind of, the changing landscape of the NALCS, that we don't have a team that went 17-1 or 18-0 in the split, right? It's so much closer, and we do have that option at any point for a team to make a surge.
I mean, the idea that the MVP candidate is actually on his team is also pretty crazy too, because the old joke was always, you know, Bjergsen 4 wards. It's not the case at all anymore.
No, definitely not. Well, with our matches in the books, let's go ahead and take a look at how the league has shifted. TSM further solidifies themselves as the first place team with their win today. Phoenix 1 are in 3rd, just 1 win away from Cloud9 in 2nd. As FlyQuest drops to 6th, teams below them in the standings look to overtake, with Dignitas already claiming 5th. We'll see what teams can do to continue their climb in the rankings with our games tomorrow. Our coverage kicks off with TSM versus Echo Fox on NA LCS 1, with Counterlogic Gaming taking on FlyQuest later in the day. Now, over on NA LCS 2, Phoenix 1 and Immortals will brawl it out in the Battle Theater. Then Ninja and Team Envy hope to best Jensen and Cloud9. So again, I mean, we come into the end of the split, there's lots of big matches, and obviously all of them have some element of relevance, but the biggest one that you guys are looking towards tomorrow when we come into these last couple games?
I was gonna say P1 Immortals, just because I'm actually really excited to see how they match up. I don't think it's necessarily the biggest in terms of relevance in playoffs
or impact,
right? Because P1's pretty heavily solidified somewhere in the playoffs. You know, Immortals still fighting for their spot, but I am interested in that just because I think the quality of play will be really good based off what we've seen out of Immortals.
You took the one I wanted to watch. I always want to watch Immortals games because right now, like in terms of entertainment value, Darlock is the man to watch. If you want to see some guy just like go off, and that's like the dream. Like you want to see someone just take over the game and do it in a style that's very aggressive, very flashy. And if you want to see that, you watch Immortals because right now Darlock is just taking over games. Even in the series losses, at least one of the games he's just going off.
Now, not necessarily going to be popular opinion here, or even the game that I'm looking forward to the most, but I'll tell you a game that I will put a magnifying glass on is Cloud9 versus Envy. Because Cloud9 has lost 2 in a row here, losing to CLG and then losing today, I want to see them come in and smash 2-0 over Envy to kind of make their case again for why they should be a top 2, deserve a bye in the playoffs team.
I mean, you'd want to see that. The scary thing is, though, is that Envy does have a strong early game. Lyra's a good aggressive jungler, and I think you might see another case where maybe Envy steals a game from C9 just off getting a lead that they can't come back from. And I mean, you want to see this the quick 2-0, but that's not how Envy goes. They are winning the game, and then they lose a big team fight.
Right. Anything can happen.
I think to back up your statement that it's weird because, yeah, sure, they have bad early games, but recently I feel like the biggest problem before was, Contract's not playing too well. Now I think Contracts is playing pretty well. As the season progressed, he's kind of filled into the void of, a good jungler. And it's weirdly enough, Jensen, which is one of their MVP candidates, is actually the one that's underperforming the most.
In the last 2 weeks, I agree, absolutely. I mean, yeah, up to week 6, week 7, we were talking about his Echo being, and still is, I mean, anytime he's played that champion, it's been stellar, but Orianna performances recently haven't been phenomenal, and so definitely still miscuing every once in a while from Jensen, but it is tough because I feel like the expectations for him as a player individually are so high.
I think it might be the kind of thing where the community and us spectators are looking at C9 in a different light than they're looking at their own team, where they are probably in some kind of phase where they're more focused on improvement than they are getting the wins right now. I think they're pretty comfortable with their standing in the league, and I don't mean to say that they're not trying to win their games, but I think they're more comfortable doing different things. Like you see Impact on Renekton, Game 1, those kinds of things I think that they're more comfortable doing now.
And I think if you talk to any of the players right now or the coaching staff, jungle and mid lane is kind of like a homogenous role. Like it becomes one role. And if you win either of the two, or like if you're underperforming in one of the two, then you lose both positions. And so right now before it was Contracts didn't do too well. Now it's Jensen not doing too well. So whatever happens, like still, because one factor of the two role piece gets is playing a little bit poorly, it's hard for them to come together. And I think right now it is super important that both your jungle and your mid lane are rock solid.
Well, playoff picture is still undecided, and that's what makes the league interesting here in regular season play. That's going to do it for today. Join us back here tomorrow for some more games. Now for myself, the Caster's entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.